So this is not, by the way, like a complete approach how to, like rid yourself of insecurities and low self-esteem, because that's definitely not the case for me at all. Hence, really, why I've been thinking about this and why I'm making this video, because it's something I like deal with a lot. I think everybody does, basically, and sometimes I think people don't know that they do, and it manifests itself in other ways. But yeah, anyway, so this is just one thing that I think can be helpful in some situations. If you are insecure about a certain thing, there can be a tendency to fixate specifically on that, and when you do that, this is likely, at the very least, if it's not a real shortcoming of yours, it's definitely a perceived shortcoming, guaranteed, or you wouldn't be insecure about it. And if you are focusing solely on yourself as just this shortcoming that you have, then you're shit. Like I don't mean you're shit for doing that. I mean, if you look at yourself in that way, you're going to see yourself as shit, basically. Like, you're going to not like yourself. You're going to see. It's like if you take like the best football player in the world, right? And you look at their worst attribute, the thing that they are worst at on the pitch, and you exclude everything else. The picture you have there is of a terrible player. That might be Lionel Messi, and you might look at him just from the point of view of how good he is in the air. For a little fella, I mean, he's not like terrible in the air anyway. It's just the only thing you can really fucking pick out. Or strength or something. You just isolate those attributes, and he seems crap. But clearly, there's a lot more to football than just those attributes. Similarly, there's a lot more to life than just like your looks or your bank account or your achievements or your social skills or how funny you are or whatever, your intelligence, whatever any of these things are. So I think the mind naturally fixates on these things and obsesses over them in a kind of like singular fashion, which I've noticed it with myself. Like I get very insecure about certain things, and I haven't been working out for long. I'm not in particularly great shape. Like, it's been something I've been taking seriously for about a year, but it's just something that I like focus on a lot. And if I see someone who's in like really amazing shape, like a lot of the time it doesn't, but some days it like really bothers me, and I think like, man, fuck, like that guy is like a way better physique than me, and like I'll probably never have a physique like that, or at least it will take years. And it makes me feel shit. It makes me feel really bad about myself, and that's because I'm in that moment. I'm solely thinking of myself in that way, and I have to remind myself like this is one very small and fairly trivial part of me, and if I'm able to step back and focus more on the bigger picture of who I am, and all of my attributes combined, I feel much better. But it often takes me a minute to do that because as I said, I just think we go down these like rabbit holes of negativity in our minds quite easily. So yeah, it's a useful thing to do, in my opinion, to try to remember that when you can, and to actively try to remember things about yourself that you like and that give you confidence. I know this sounds kind of cringy and stupid, like, oh, remind yourself of why you're great or whatever, but like I have it, for example, with music. Like I sometimes, or not just, but like I if I go through times where I'm feeling really bad about myself, I can often just like listen to stuff that I've made that I really like, that I'm really proud of, and it like pretty frequently makes me feel a lot better. I don't necessarily even do it with that in mind, but it's just a thing that happens. And even just remembering things like more foundational things about yourself, like how you are as a family member, good things you've done, like acknowledging the parts of yourself that are good or kind or decent or have value or whatever. It's a really, really good and important thing to do, because I think a lot of people's minds will naturally gravitate towards the negative. That's like a passive thing. Even you don't have to choose that. Your brain will probably pick out negative things, and it makes sense from an evolutionary point of view. But if you're just trying to live your life and be happy, it doesn't make sense, and it makes you feel like shit, basically. So I think you have to then to get in and actively confront those passive processes and pathways with active and more positive ones. Otherwise they'll fucking take over your mind, basically. Because I see it happening all around. I see it I think it's happening in men a lot more than it was before. It's pretty clear, really, in my opinion, that men are a lot more insecure now than they were maybe 20 years ago. I wasn't a man 20 years ago. I was 9, so I don't know. But it definitely feels that way. Because I feel like even in the time since I have been an adult, I've seen this progression, and obviously women deal with a lot of it as well. And you can usually see it, you can see it manifesting itself in various ways. You see it in all of us, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, basically, but I think it's a source of inner turmoil for a lot of people. And a thing I realised about it the other day as well is, and again, I think this applies maybe to some degree to women and to certain women, but I think as more of a general rule, I think it applies to men, that the problem is it's very embarrassing to admit that you are insecure, because that is often one of your insecurities, is being unconfident or being insecure about certain things, or being vulnerable in certain ways. I know this is quite cliche territory recently, but it's something that a lot of people give lip service to, and people don't actually take that seriously, in terms of, or at least people don't really act upon this kind of knowledge in a useful or practical way. But there's been a lot of talk for a long time, I think, about women's kind of insecurities and stuff, and it's not. I don't feel personally. I don't feel it's as shameful or embarrassing for women to admit. Basically, it obviously can be a lot of the time, and obviously confidence is important for women too. But I think as a man, confidence is a pretty fundamental tenet of your attractiveness, likability, your social value, everything else. You kind of have to have confidence in yourself, or people just won't like you, and you will have probably a poor quality of life as a result. And so even for people, I think even just admitting that they do feel bad about certain things is in itself, it's like it kind of perpetuates the problem. And so it's a really difficult thing, because people don't want to be seen in that way, basically. It's a bit of a similar thing with depression or loneliness or anxiety, especially loneliness. In fact, I'd say people don't want to be seen in that way. People don't want to admit to something like that, even though it might be useful to do so, because they don't want to be looked at as lesser. And fact is, people do look at you as lesser for things like that. If you say I feel terribly insecure about myself, I feel really bad about myself, I feel a lot of people will look down on you for it, and they'll see themselves as superior to you. Similarly, if you say I'm fucking lonely, I'm really alone in life and stuff, people will see themselves as superior to you. They will look down on you. Not everybody, but a lot of people will. It's kind of an innate thing. So it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any fucking solution to that. But at least this one thing that I talked about earlier in the video, before kind of aimlessly going off script, is that strategy. I think that will definitely can definitely help to combat these negative thoughts and feelings.